I'm really delighted to be here with you today, and having heard all the other speakers from my colleague Dieter to now just Gabrielle, I have the sense we're all working for the same goal, we're all dealing with the same issues, and it really feels like being part of a community, and that's a very, very good feeling. My name is Hilde Hardeman. I work for the European Commission, where I lead the Publications Office of the European Union. Now, what do? We make it known to the public what the EU does and means, and we help unlock the power of data. And I would like to go for a moment with you to the core of our mandate, which is to authenticate and publish EU law to give it legal effect, very much like the official gazettes in EU member states. So through that mandate, we play a systemic role in the decision-making processes of the European Union and for the rule of law in the Union and beyond, because without publication, there simply is no law. Now, we all know that democratic legitimacy, citizens' trust, and therefore democratic resilience depend on how government and citizens, state and society interact. And as publisher of the official journal of the European Union, because that's how the official gazette of the EU is called, and as publisher of European data and information, it's not enough to simply publish. We must also help to bring EU law, data and information to citizens and to society in a way that makes sense to them, that makes citizens engage, so that people can take ownership and that they can make the most of all the opportunities that the EU offers as a community of values and of law, as a large, huge single market, and as a driving force for peace and prosperity in Europe and beyond. That is the challenge. That is what we work for every day. Now, to achieve that goal, clear writing, both in a very strict sense of that concept and in a wider meaning, is at the heart of everything that we do. And today, I would like to take you along for a virtual tour of what clear writing entails for us in our day-to-day work. I told you we publish the EU's laws to give them legal effect. For that purpose, the Publications Office was set up more than 50 years ago in 1969. And today, more than 50 years later, our core mandate remains unchanged, but our role has evolved and expanded to that of what you could call a center of excellence for data, information, and knowledge management. So in addition to authenticating and publishing EU law, we publish procurement notices for European public bodies. If the Luxembourgish government wants to procure something for a sum above 140,000 euro, they have to publish that notice. With us, we will, with the help of Christos and his team, make sure that that notice is available with a summary in all 24 official languages of the EU. And that means that all citizens and businesses in the EU can equally participate in the EU and beyond, can equally participate in the EU single market. We also help the EU institutions, for instance, Paolo and his team. We help them to publish information on their policy work in different formats, from classical paper publications over apps to virtual reality games. We provide access to information sources that the EU institutions hold, and we publish the official directory of the EU institutions so that citizens know who deals with any given topic, so that they know, for instance, that Jeroen Aspeslag deals with clear writing in digitranslation. We also publish the results of all the research funded by the European Union, and that's a lot, because the EU is one of the biggest funders of research in the world. And we publish those results both for scientists and for the general public to make sure that all can benefit from those results. We publish European open data for all European countries except Russia. They never asked to work with us, and now we are not asking them, at national, regional and local level, and for the EU institutions, so that all can make use of these open data. We know that data are the new oil. All can make use of these open data for decision-making, for research, but also to offer products or services and make a good business. Our first stakeholders, as I said, are the EU institutions. As their common publications office, we allow them to speak with one voice, and we help them to make trustworthy information available to the public. And the public, you in a way, you are our ultimate stakeholders. Now, this public for which we cater is very diverse, with different needs, habits, expectations, from the baker on your street to the judge in the European Court of Justice, from the startup to the multinational, from teenagers to pensioners. And on top of that, the EU's multilingual context with 24 official languages, from languages like English and Spanish that are among the most spoken languages in the world, to far less spoken languages like Maltese or Irish, all of this adds to the complexity. I would like to go with you for a moment to the values on which the European Union is founded. The values of human dignity, freedom, democracy, equality, the rule of law and respect for human rights. And as a European public body, we must seek to serve all our citizens equally well, whatever their mother tongue or their walk of life, whether or not they may have difficulties in seeing or hearing, or maybe face other cognitive challenges. It's our duty to try and be as inclusive as possible and to ensure that the information that we make public is as accessible as it can be, so that nobody is left behind. Now we employ different strategies and tools to achieve, or I would say rather, to work for that goal. It's not easy to achieve that goal. And clear writing, and as Ditte said, clear thinking. You first need to know what it is that you want to say before you can write clearly. Clear writing and clear thinking is the basis of each and every one of those strategies and tools. Plain language is the first tool we have available. And at our office, a team of close to 100 language quality specialists, and Graziella over there is one of them, working in all 24 languages of the EU, support authors to write clearly. We combine this language quality work with editorial advice and publication performance assessments. We help our authors assess who are their target audience, for whom are you writing, and then to adapt their language to the needs of that target audience. Children need a different approach than scientists, to give just one example. And as Gabriel has said, empathy is always crucial. People need to have the sense that you really are with them, thinking with them, giving them examples that make sense in their real life. Then post-publication, we help our authors to see how their publications reached or not their audience, what worked well and what did not, and what can be further improved and how. And I was very pleased to hear from Paolo yesterday that they're really using that. Also, just like Emilia just explained, just like Guichet.lu, we also provide summaries of EU legislation, and we use the same method as the preferred method, number one, right, that we draft and then send it back to the ministries, and Charlotte over there is one of the colleagues working with us on that. So our first tool is really plain language, clear language, suited to the needs of your audience. Our second tool, and Gabriel spoke about that. Our second tool to ensure clear writing is visualization. We all know the saying, one picture says more than 1,000 words, and we all use visualization every day. How often do we make a small sketch to explain something visually to our interlocutor? Visualization is absolutely crucial for us at the office, even more so in a multilingual environment, an environment with 24 languages. This picture, in the end, can be the same for everybody. We can use visualization for different purposes, to analyze data, to find relationships and demonstrate impact, to simplify and clarify messages, to overcome language barriers, to tell a story, also very important. Visualization helps people to gain insight from complex information effectively and fast, making for powerful, accessible, and memorable messages. Often it's actually the image that you will remember, and supporting data-based decision-making. And we also know from research that linking source data to visuals underpins transparency and increases trust in the data that you have used. That's why at the Publications Office we provide visualization services through our own in-house specialized designers and by providing advice to our stakeholders, the EU institutions. That's also why we animate a community of practice on data visualization, which is the largest and the most active interinstitutional community of practice at EU level today. Yet, however powerful a tool visualization is, it's not fully inclusive. If you don't see well, it doesn't work for you. That's why we need a third set of tools, which we call accessibility tools. Now, what are accessibility tools in this context? These are approaches that allow to make texts, pictures, data, even digital tools accessible for persons who face certain difficulties. Difficulties in seeing, in hearing, or understanding, or in using such tools as keyboards or mouses. How do we make texts, pictures, data accessible for the widest possible circle of users in different ways? And I will mention just a few. There are many more than the ones that I will mention to you. By providing a description for images, whether it be pictures or data visualizations, obviously in plain language, that can then be read out for visually impaired readers by a chatbot that turns language into speech. That's one method. By providing transcripts for videos and podcasts, take the video that Paulo showed, again in plain language, so that a hearing impaired user can read the transcripts. By using very clear layout, easy to read fonts and color choices that work for persons who are colorblind. There are many visuals that are very beautiful to look at, but they don't work for you if you're colorblind. Also by using, like Gabriel mentioned, easy to read language, images and formats for persons with intellectual challenges, providing easy to understand visualizations of key concepts and then accompanying these in turn with easy to understand descriptions that can be read out by a chatbot for persons who are visually impaired. And a last example that I want to give, by making sure that websites and digital content are easy to navigate also for persons who are not able to use keyboards or mouses, or who on an app, for instance, find it difficult to work with something that is behind something else, situation that you often encounter. In short, to make sure that we provide trustworthy information and data to the public in the most inclusive possible way, we use different tools, plain language in 24 languages, visualization and accessibility tools. All this is both an art and a science, at which our colleagues at the Publications Office really excel and for which they are incredibly passionate. We provide production and advisory services in all these fields, along with training and training materials that are available online for all, in the institutions, but also for all of you, for the public at large, wherever you are. Our specialists animate, as I said, communities of practice in the institutions. They provide training for academia and international organizations. They participate in conferences and exchanges like today's event, so that we can collectively reflect, exchange and learn, and ultimately provide together an even better service to the public in making complex and technical topics easy to understand. Now, to conclude, let me come back to the values on which the European Union is based: human dignity, freedom, democracy, equality, the rule of law and respect for human rights. Now, to put these principles into practice, to turn them from a letter in the treaty to real life, citizens need to feel involved, take ownership and engage. Providing citizens with transparent, trustworthy information in a proactive, easily accessible, inclusive manner is an essential democratic function that we have the duty to fulfill. Well-informed citizens are more engaged citizens. And in today's geopolitical context, and as Dieter said, less than 1 year before the next European elections, that's particularly important to bear in mind. So we all collectively, with our work on clear writing, plain language in different forms and shapes, we collectively have in our hands one of the best tools, one of the strongest, most powerful tools to help to achieve that. So let's do our best and work together to make the most of it. Thank you so much for your attention.